I'm Stephanie. Sitting here in my new apartment in Singapore, looking out at the city skyline, I'm reminded of the long journey that brought me here. It's been 4 months since I left behind my old life, and the memories still sting, but they also bring a sense of relief and liberation. The last message from my ex, Jake, came a few weeks ago. He said he was moving to Denver for a fresh start and hoped Singapore was everything I wanted. He apologized for making me feel like I was too much. Reading that message, I felt a strange mix of emotions. It was too late to fix what we had, but it was also a step towards closure. I remember the day I landed in Singapore like it was yesterday. I didn't turn my phone on during the layover. I didn't want to face the storm of messages and calls that awaited me. When I finally powered it up, there were 127 notifications, texts, missed calls, voicemails, and messages from friends I hadn't spoken to in months. They were all suddenly invested in my whereabouts. I didn't open anything right away. I unpacked, took a long shower, and let the jet lag pull me into a deep sleep. When I woke up, I sat on the edge of the bed and started reading the messages. The first ones were filled with anger and confusion. Where are you? This isn't funny. What the hell is this note supposed to mean? Call me right now. Then came the realization that I had planned this for months. You planned this for 3 months. How could you not tell me? Around midnight, the tone shifted. Jake started to apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Can we please talk? I love you. By Friday morning, his messages turned frantic. Everyone's asking what happened. Your mom called me. I told my parents the wedding is postponed. Please just tell me you're safe. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my mother. She answered on the first ring, her voice tight with worry. Claire? Thank God. He called me crying, saying, you vanished. I gently corrected her, I didn't vanish. I left. I'm in Singapore. She was shocked. Sing? I took a job here, I explained. What about the wedding? She asked. There isn't one, I replied. I told her the shortened version of what had happened. How Jake had made me feel like my emotions were a burden, and how I had realized I was planning a life with someone who didn't actually want to share one. She sighed and said, oh, honey. Why didn't you say something sooner? I told her, because everyone loved us together. Because I thought I was the problem. Because I kept hoping love would eventually sound like effort from both sides. My relationship with Jake had started so well. We had been together for 5 years and engaged for 2. We had a shared apartment in New York City and a wedding planned for the following summer. Save the dates had been mailed, and a venue deposit had been paid. From the outside, we were the perfect couple. People pointed at us and said, they're going to last. I thought so too. But that Tuesday night, everything changed. My department was going through a restructuring. There was new leadership, impossible performance metrics, and quiet layoffs disguised as strategic realignment. I came home carrying takeout and exhaustion, hoping for some comfort. Jake was on the couch, scrolling through his phone. I told him about the problems at work, how the new benchmarks didn't account for what we actually did. He just grunted and kept looking at his phone. I tried again, saying I wasn't just complaining but trying to share what was happening in my life. That's when he finally looked up, not with concern or curiosity, but with annoyance. He said, do you ever think that maybe you overthink everything? That it's exhausting being with someone who actually feels? His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I asked him what he meant, and he said I turned everything into an emotional event. Work stress, friend drama, even picking furniture, everything was a crisis with me. He then said, maybe I need someone who doesn't require constant emotional maintenance. That was it. The conversation was over. I felt like a light had gone out inside me. From that night on, I stopped sharing. I withdrew, not dramatically, but quietly. I answered his questions with short, vague responses. At first, he didn't notice. He was too busy with wedding planning. He talked at me about guest counts, menu options, and venue details. I nodded and asked questions, but my heart wasn't in it. Meanwhile, I started researching Singapore. I found out about the neighborhoods, visa paperwork, and international shipping quotes. 2 weeks after that fateful night, my director asked me to have a chat. He told me our parent company was opening a regional office in Singapore and needed someone to lead the setup. It was a 2-year contract with a significant pay increase and full autonomy. He said he thought I'd be perfect for it. I didn't hesitate. I said I was interested. The relief on his face was palpable. He said they needed me there by the end of the quarter, in 12 weeks. I accepted the offer before I left his office and didn't tell Jake. I realized he hadn't asked me anything real about my life in months, so I stopped volunteering information. 3 weeks after accepting the transfer, we went to dinner at Jake's parents' house. His mother spent the whole meal talking about the wedding. She said we needed to lock in a band soon because prices were going up. Jake added that they were thinking of live music and looked at me, asking if I agreed. I just said, whatever you prefer. His father noticed I was quiet and asked if everything was okay. I said I was just tired. His mother laughed and said, well, don't get too tired. You've got a wedding to plan. On the drive home, Jake was unusually talkative. He said his mom was right, and we needed to finalize the venue deposit. He then asked if I was mad at him. I told him I was just giving him space, just like he wanted. He was confused and asked what I was talking about. I reminded him of what he had said about me being exhausting. He said he didn't mean for me to shut down completely. I replied that I was just not making everything an emotional event anymore. That's when I realized I was planning a future alone, even though I was still standing next to him. And for the first time, that future didn't scare me. It felt like a breath of fresh air. 6 weeks before my departure date, I started packing strategically. I took a box of books to my office every few days, saying I wanted to declutter. I donated clothes I knew I wouldn't miss, especially the ones Jake liked on me. Sentimental items went into a small storage unit across town. Jake didn't notice. He was consumed by wedding planning. He sat at the kitchen table every night, scrolling through options and asking me questions that felt more like checkboxes than genuine interest. He asked me what I thought of some centerpieces, and I said they were nice. He frowned and said I didn't care at all. I told him I cared about what made him happy, but he was right, it wasn't the same thing. 4 weeks before my flight, I gave notice on the apartment. I called the landlord while sitting in my car during lunch. I told him I'd handle the move out and asked him not to mention it to Jake if he called. He was confused but agreed. 3 weeks before departure, my company booked my flight for Thursday evening. I didn't tell Jake's family or our friends. I didn't correct the wedding rumors that were still circulating. I realized I didn't owe anyone access to my leaving, especially those who hadn't noticed me fading. 2 weeks before my departure, Jake planned a guy's trip for the weekend I was supposed to leave. But it fell apart when one of his friends canceled. He decided to work from home that Friday instead. I adjusted my plans, moved my flight up a day, and told my boss I'd work remotely for the last shift. Wednesday night, I finished packing. Everything I owned was either in storage, shipped overseas, or in the 2 suitcases waiting by the door. Thursday morning, Jake left for the office around 8:30. He kissed my cheek out of habit and asked if he should grab dinner. I said I was good and would handle it. After he left, I walked through the apartment one last time. It looked like a staged model unit. I left most of the furniture because it was mostly his. I removed myself from most of the framed photos and left the empty frames face down on the coffee table. Then I sat at the kitchen counter and wrote the note. I rewrote it 15 times. I didn't want to be cruel, but I refused to be invisible. When I was done, I folded the paper and placed it beside my keys and the engagement ring I had quietly removed from my nightstand drawer. My Uber arrived at noon. I didn't look back when I locked the door. I didn't need to. I was already gone. In Singapore, I started a new life. The work was intense and demanding, but it was also fulfilling. I was building something from nothing, and my colleagues were genuinely interested in me. They asked how my weekend was and actually waited for the answer. Jake kept texting me. At first, his messages were full of anger and demands. He said I didn't have the right to run away and that we were supposed to get married. But 3 weeks after I left, he sent a different message. He said he had started therapy and was writing down what he wished he had done differently. He apologized for taking me for granted and making me feel like loving him was a burden. I replied, I appreciate you saying that. I hope therapy helps you. Take care of yourself. When he asked to talk on the phone, I didn't answer. I was done standing in the wreckage of our relationship. A month after I left, Singapore started to feel like home. I took morning walks past glass towers and street vendors setting up before sunrise. I worked late nights at the office, building systems from scratch. 2 months in, my best friend, Lily, came to visit. She had a work trip in Hong Kong and extended it for a long weekend in Singapore. She said, "This place suits you. You look lighter." I told her I felt lighter too. She hesitated and said Jake had asked her if she'd seen me. She knew he wanted her to tell me he was sorry again. I told her I knew he had. She nodded and said she thought I had done the right thing. I told her I didn't leave to punish Jake. I left because I couldn't keep shrinking to be easier to love. A few weeks later, I went on my first date since leaving. It was nothing dramatic, just someone kind who asked questions and didn't make me feel like I was taking up too much space. It was refreshing. Looking back, I don't regret leaving. I've learned that being emotional isn't a flaw, and wanting depth isn't a burden. Love that asks you to dim your light isn't love, it's control disguised as comfort. I didn't lose a fiancé, I reclaimed myself. And for the first time in a long time, that feels right.